8 centuries, 15 matches, 8 centuries. Went on then and played district cricket. Was selected for Victoria, I think around 1948, before his 20th birthday, and eventually broke into the Australian Test team in the West Indies tour of Australia in 52-53. He went on to play 47 tests, Col, for Australia, averaging best part of 40, opening the batting. He was an outstanding player of spin bowling, and we'll explore that a bit later. Cole is very, very sharp. I sent him something to have a look at, and I'd made a typographical error in it. I'd made a typographical error in it, and it was referring to the Manchester Test in 1956 when Jim Laker took 19 wickets. I said Colin had made 32 and 69. Back came the email quick as a flash, 89 if you don't mind. So, without any further, then Cole finished with the 1961 tour of England. He then had an insurance broking business, and one of his clients was Bill Easton. And funnily enough, he ended up at Brighton for the 63-64 season and played here for 5 years until he decided to take a sea change when someone walked into his office late in 1968 and offered him some money for his insurance business, and 20 minutes later a deal was done. So without any further ado, I've got some questions I'll ask Cole, and we'll just see where it takes us, and then later on, if you have some questions as well, feel free to come on board. I started, Cole, about you coming to Brighton. Do you want to expand on that just a little bit following the 61 tour?
Yes, but I'd firstly say, Mr. President and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me. I know I'm an ex-Brighton player, and I regard this as one of my more pleasant homes, and I'm very glad to be back here today. What's going to happen, I understand, is that some time ago Rick interviewed me, and there was
transcript.
There's a transcript. I think some of the questions that Rick's going to ask me today, I might put a few more in, but I think some of the questions were asked some time ago. We're going to go through that again, aren't we?
We are.
Any rate, so you start?
Yeah, I will. So you came to Brighton following Bill Easton's persuasion. You joined a Brighton first 11 that boasted Lou Carter, Jack Iverson, Len Hayball, Dave Kerr, Bill Gillard, yes, Bill Gillard, and Alan Tudor.
You're wrong, Jack Iverson.
He played 62-3, still playing. Gillard's questioning the facts, but anyway, you joined a very strong first 11. Have you got any comments on the players that you played with in that initial period?
Yes, I have. But let's be serious for a moment. In fact, we'll be serious most of this time. In the days that I was playing district cricket, both the district, now Premier League, and the sub-district had an odd number of teams. And the two teams that had a bye used to play each other, sub-district team playing the district team, play each other for points. And Melbourne used to play Brighton. We did this regularly. Now, I first came across a Brighton cricket team playing on the Albert Cricket Ground against Brighton for points, and my, what a team it was. And Jack Iverson, John Cooper, Dave Kerr, and others, Lou Carter. I don't know whether Lou was actually in that side. I played with Lou at the university before that. But that Brighton sub-district team was the equal of almost any district team, which meant that to play for points against a damn good side, which included the greatest slow bowler in the world at the time, was hard work. And we won, but my goodness, it was hard, and I'm now going to blow my bags. I made 100 against Jack Iverson on the Albert ground, and it was one of the better innings I ever played, because Iverson was, as I repeat, the greatest slow bowler in the world. We can pursue that.
When we will, Cole. You've mentioned Iverson. I know you have a very high regard for Shane Warne. Can you talk about them?
Yes. Shane Warne is the greatest bowler who's ever bowled. Fast, slow, whatever. Off spin, leg spin. No question in my mind, the greatest bowler who's ever bowled a cricket ball. Jack Iverson wasn't far behind. Shane Warne has had a beautiful action. He knew precisely where he was going to deliver the ball, and of course he had enormous spin and a huge variety of deliveries. Shane Warne had everything. I wrote a book at one stage, and I had various classes of players who'd worn the baggy green. I've got a category 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Category 1 had 1.5 players in it. One of them was Don Bradman. The other one, 1A, was Shane Warne. And then category 2 were the great players. Any great player, such as
Neil Harvey?
Chappell, Neil Harvey, Davidson, Benno, the great players. Category 3 were the good test cricketers. I put myself in category 3. Category 4 were those for players who probably got a mention at selection meetings, wore the baggy green with honour, but probably, as I said, were discussed when a test team was to be selected. And category 5 were those who wore a baggy green. Laurie Nash, my mate George Tom played a test match. So they all wore the baggy green, the same one that Don Bradman wore. Now I've told you what I think of Shane Warne. Jack Iverson was of the same calibre. The difference was Shane Warne knew cricket exceptionally well, backwards. Magnificent cricketer and a thorough knowledge of the game. Jack Iverson knew practically nothing about the game. He just happened to be great. When he first started at Brighton, I know he used to bowl on the nets to the 4th and 5th 11 players because he got them out every second ball. That gave him great pleasure. And the first 11 players, he'd get them out every 5 or 6 balls. That's how good he was. When he first played district cricket in Melbourne, the Melbourne club, when I played with him, he averaged in one year, when he won the bowling averages, he averaged 6 point something. I mean, this is Premier League, Premier cricket. I was playing with him on one occasion at Collingwood. Collingwood's team had 7 fellows in it who were either playing for Victoria or had played for Victoria. Jack Iverson had 6 wickets for 1 run at one stage on a good wicket. On a good wicket. He finished with 7 for 6. Bill Baker, who was a wicket keeper, hit him for 2 twos, and there was a 1 somewhere at 7 for 6. That's how Iverson was. I mean, when he did play Test cricket, he got out Hutton and Hutton and Compton. I think I can be I can be questioned on that, but certainly Hutton. He was a great bowler. I played in a final match with him on the Melbourne Cricket Ground against South Melbourne. Hassett was playing, and Hassett took every ball from Iverson for 2 hours. Iverson didn't get 1 ball, not 1 ball, to any other player, because Hassett knew that they had no chance. That's how good it. And we beat them. And you can thank Iverson for that. That's how good he was.
Cole, you were batting once at Brighton. I think there was a young barrister who could well be in this room waiting to come in when you saw a railway employee pursuing someone up South Road. Can you? What exactly happened there?
I think this story's done the rounds a few times, I imagine. I was batting, and there was this guy tearing up South Road, and followed by a fellow in uniform, in railway uniform, and didn't take long to realise that there was an employee of the railways chasing a guy who'd done some misdemeanour, being chased for as hard as this fella could go. Bill Gillard saw it too, and he was here watching me bat gloriously, I suppose.
As usual.
And anyway, I dropped the bat and went roaring from that end up towards. I don't know what I was going to do, but I went roaring.
Bill would have beaten you to the man, surely, wouldn't he?
Fortunately, Bill saw an old too, and he saw what was happening, so he came roaring from about here over the South Road, and we did, in fact, we whatever one does with a citizen's arrest, what did you do, Bill? We
achieved it, now we got him.
Yeah, we got the bloke, and anyway, I went back with the pad still on to bewildered umpires and resumed batting while Bill did what had to be done, and this guy got arrested and subsequently charged and
convicted, I think.
I have a cutting in my screen.
Now there was another instance where, did you lose a ball on Lou Carter at Williamstown or something?
I have these stories, and I have everyone hasn't heard them before. If you have, just tell me to shut up. And, it was a final match, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't, Colin.
Not a final match. Okay, well we played a final match later that year, I think. Anyway, we're playing against Williamstown on the Williamstown Oval, which probably most people in this room know, but Port Phillip Bay. And I was feeling out at third man on the fence, and another 10 yards is into the bay. Lou Carter, our captain, was fielding in the slips, and I was a third man. And the ball came, batsman hit the ball down in my general direction, and I'm coming in to field it, and it suddenly disappeared. No ball. And the tap cover was slightly off centre. There was a gap, and the ball went down the gap into this drain, and that drain itself went out into Port Phillip Bay. And so I left the cover off, no ball. And so I didn't, the batsmen are running. I didn't know how to stop them. And I didn't know that. I'd never played I used to play good cricket. I never played in a cricket match where you had a lost ball. And
it was a pretty pathetic excuse.
At any rate, I'm laughing because I didn't know what to do, didn't know how to stop them. And Lou's yelling out, throw the ball in. I can't. Anyway, he woke up to what was happening. I think about the 4th or 5th run. Lost ball. And that stopped them. I didn't know the rule. And lost ball. Anyway, that was